All right, I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is Black Politics Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There's a link in the chat for you to join the panel. It's a Zoom link. Make sure you update to your latest Zoom client before joining. And we are going to get started. Let me know you can see my screen. All right, let's get started. So you had the New Hampshire primary race today, and Nikki Haley going up against Trump in New Hampshire. We talked about this on Sunday with the stream about Byron Donalds being the VP pick for a possible VP pick for Trump. Now, here's the deal. We said in that stream, Nikki Haley would bow out in New Hampshire. Okay, it was not like we predicted it, but we looked at the numbers. What happened in Iowa happened tonight as well. Nikki Haley got demolished. Okay, she was only able to gain 6 delegates and not convince the voters that she was a legitimate candidate. Now, people can argue about the weather and say, oh, well, it's kind of cold in New Hampshire and people didn't want to come out. It's cold in New Hampshire all the time. I don't care if it's the summertime, it's always cold. And so this idea that weather played a role in Nikki Haley not being able to bring out the voters and whatnot, that's not true. Okay. Um, they've already conceded that Trump is the primary winner in New Hampshire. So we've already been saying this since Iowa, even before Iowa. Nikki Haley has no shot at becoming the Republican nominee, primarily because she cannot convince the base that she is a formidable opponent to Trump and that she can actually outperform Trump. She's just not that person. Now, some people have speculated that it was about gender and people weren't really getting with Nikki Haley because she was a woman, but that's not true because women endorsed Trump. Carrie Lake endorsed Trump. You had MTG and Lauren Boebert. They were out there stomping for Trump. So if it's all about women, in this whole gender identity politic thing, which is funny because Republicans don't like to play identity politics. In reality, this is identity politics. Trump is the identity. MAGA is the movement. She tried to go up against MAGA and it failed. And then she bobbled back and forth between, she would pardon Trump. Trump was a bad guy. He has questioning his cognitive abilities over the weekend and whatnot. That's not consistent. very inconsistent in her views. And so that's where Nikki Haley's problem started to come up, is that she's very unstable, socially speaking. She's easily stumped on very simple questions. I think the Civil War question really threw her through a loop in New Hampshire. And I think that a lot of people in New Hampshire backed away from her and said, I don't know if I really want to get behind this person. You know, now she did do very well with independents, but that makes a lot of sense, primarily because a lot of independents who don't like Biden and can't stomach Trump would have no problem getting behind a Nikki Haley. So that makes a lot of sense. But Nikki Haley just was not that person. She just was not that person. And I always find it interesting that Nikki Haley likes to promote herself as being this sort of the future of the party. I don't think she's the future of the party. I don't think she has a place in the party. In fact, I would argue that South Carolina is it. Okay, next month it will be South Carolina, I think around the 21st. And so if you can't win South Carolina, I think you're done. I think you're done with politics at this point. Now, can she be a queen maker within the party? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, if you can't convince people now, I don't see how you can convince them later. Same thing with Chris Christie. Chris Christie was the governor of New Jersey. Did a fairly decent job, at handling, the disaster when Obama was in office. It didn't hold up, on the campaign trail. I mean, that's just the reality. That these sort of things don't matter. Okay, it just doesn't matter. What your track record was in regards to some of the good things you have done in your state. That doesn't translate on the campaign trail. This is what happened with Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis ran this anti-woke movement in Florida and thought that it would spill over into the rest of the states, and that didn't work out well for him either. These are the sort of problems that a lot of Republican candidates are going to have going forward. They cannot usurp Trump, not because Trump is this sort of really brilliant guy, but because the weight of the movement is too heavy for them to carry or to go up against. Okay. We got Nagone 11 on the panel. What's going on, bro?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, Mike? Yeah, pretty good breakdown here. Watching this pretty closely. There's no doubt about it. Nikki Haley, she's actually. I'm just looking at the numbers. She's at, Trump's lead is expanding a bit, as right now as we look at it. So, she's definitely lost New Hampshire as we see going into South Carolina, which is going to be a real tough road for her. She's doing well with the independents, but her biggest issue really is with the Republicans and the Republican Party. Really, it's the Republicans. She's not doing very well amongst them, and certainly that evangelical vote, that's going to be there in South Carolina, where that's going to be about 70% of the voters. She's not really polling very well there. She's at about 24% or so. I have to agree with you, Mike. I think she's done with politics after this. After South Carolina, I think it's over. I think it's really over for her. She didn't come. If she came closer tonight, around 47 or 48%, I think that would have looked a lot better. But that's not looking good. Even though she did well amongst the independent voters, which we can start to look at more towards a general election type of thing, for as far as an issue for Trump. But as far as in the Republican primary here, looking at this, it doesn't look good for Nikki. I think you're right. South Carolina is definitely going to be either her Waterloo or whatever. If that doesn't happen for her, she's done. That's just it. I don't not much more of a breakdown. I don't see her being able to win South Carolina. The way that vote is going to break down, especially with 70% of evangelicals out of that state, no chance. That's it.
No, no, you're bang on the money with this. I don't see what value she brings to the party at this point. I mean, she's not bringing out female voters, at least not in the numbers that Trump did. I mean, what? I mean, if it's all about women sticking together and bringing in that base, they didn't seem to come out for her. They came out for Trump, and other women endorsed Trump. Carrie Lake endorsed Trump. You had the MAGA sisters, MTG and Lauren Boebert. Where was Liz Cheney to back up Nikki Haley? Nowhere to be found.
Excellent.
Nowhere to be found. So, and she said that she would pardon Trump, but if you thought that Trump was innocent, what would be the necessity to pardon Trump? See, these are the sort of gaffes that she's had on the campaign trail. She just was not ready for prime time. And a lot of people may say, oh, well, I just don't like Nikki Haley. Yeah, but what's the rationale for not liking Nikki Haley, right? From a Black perspective, if you're trying to attract Black people to the party, Nikki Haley wasn't the person to do it. Same thing with DeSantis. DeSantis could not attract the Black base to the party. Trump, with all of his 91 felonies and whatnot, he's the only person that can really attract Black people to the party. And I think that having Byron Donalds on the ticket would in fact do something like that. Would increase those numbers. But Nikki Haley, future-wise, 2028, I don't see any that her bringing anything to the party. She didn't do anything now. Why would she bring something later? What would she be doing? She didn't even talk about how she would repair the economy. She didn't talk about the domestic issues in regards to job development. These are all sort of bread and butter subjects that should have been covered, like a fastball. And she failed to pitch it. And so you have what you have in New Hampshire and Iowa.
Yeah, there's absolutely no question about that. And to be quite frank, I don't even think this can even be questioned at this stage. We're looking at the numbers. If she expand on that base? No. I think she's already lost South Kakalaki. As my grandfather used to say, South Kakalaki. I think that's already done for her. I know she's been defiant, saying that she's going to stay in the race. Regardless, I'm here, we're going to, pull our people out and everything else like that. Okay, that sounds really good, but where are you going to get the votes? And then it's going to come to a point as to what kind of money you're going to be able to raise after a while. I just don't see where she's going to be competitive. She cannot turn this thing around in South Carolina, and it's just she can't turn it around there. It's over.
You have three people who dropped out that are endorsed Trump. And then you had Chris Christie on the hot mic say that Nikki Haley has no chance. All of this is playing out to fruition now. All of it. Yeah.
I think that's it, Mike. I really do. I mean, I wish I could say a lot more on this, but and then Nikki already said if she won or whatever, she would pardon Trump and everything else like that. So they're in the tank. They're in the tank for him right now. They're in the tank. They're in the tank for Trump. Of course, I'm not surprised, at all. This was well expected, but I thought, if Nikki was going to really run very credibly, she was going to, come out here a lot stronger. She didn't have a great showing in Iowa. She certainly, this is the strongest showing she's had so far, and like I said, she's doing well amongst the independents, and of course, the Democrats that came out and voted for her. Of course, they came out there, but in large numbers. But maybe she would look better in a general election potentially. But you got to be able to make it there, and she's not going to make it there. She's just not going to make it there, and she's not getting the support inside of her party. That's the key. Her party inside the inside players. And I even saw Tim Scott. He was standing behind Trump, wasn't he? During his his victory speech, he was standing right behind him. So, and
He's going to
that's
be in for a rude awakening himself when he's not, selected, for the highest ranking position.
yeah, yeah.
He's not going to be the guy. I just don't see him being the guy. Um, he's all over the place. He's proposing on dirty beaches, and he's talking about America's not a racist country. It's just, just a really strange cat, man. Really strange cat.
Uh,
And so I don't see him being that guy. I think he's too aloof to be to be a high ranking member. But we talked about Byron Donalds already. I think that DeSantis is looking to secure his position as well.
yeah,
If he doesn't get promise a cabinet role, then he'll double back to Florida and just remain governor there. And even then, he might be under threat as well. There's nothing saying that a Donald Trump Jr. may threaten this guy's position and get him up out of the paint, because you don't want DeSantis coming back in 2028 at all. You want to put this guy in the can like Oscar the Grouch, keep him there.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and so that Trump can run a full court press if everything works out for him, but that's not necessarily guaranteed. But I do see his son coming out as a top flight, up and comer, next of kin to his father. I think that's going to be a really critical thing.
He's a problem. He's a problem. He is a problem. I didn't think so at first. We talked about that earlier. And now he's on that campaign trail. He's sharp. He's young, 46 years of age. He's a firebrand, very much more of a libertarian as opposed to just to just a staunch conservative, if you will. He can pull from kind of both sides. He's a problem. So when you start looking at the newer talent coming up, the newer talent in the party, because their field right now it's weak. But this younger man coming up is a problem. He's going to be a problem. Folks are going to have to deal with him. Yeah. They're going to have to deal with him. And I believe much of what, if his father doesn't make it, a lot of that's going to be transferable to him. So, and then he could maybe expand outside of that base as well. So he's a problem. Yeah, he's a problem for sure. He's a problem, no doubt.
Yeah, he's a better libertarian than Rand Paul.
Oh, for sure. Rand Paul, he came across, real impish, racist, kind of weak, and people don't really like. He's not that very likable. This guy looks like he might be able to pull that off.
He's not a firebrand.
Yeah, he's
like
definitely
Trump Jr. He's not a firebrand. And I think that Trump Jr. is posed to take over the party at some point. Whether you're talking about just MAGA or you're talking about the Republican Party collectively, I think that guy is setting himself up for 2028. I don't think people really understand that the Republican Party is in shambles right now. I mean,
they are.
It's a house that is blighted, politically speaking. It's just blighted. It just has a lot of asbestos in it, and it just has a lot of issues of condemnation inside of it. Man, you don't really want solo cups and stuff laying around, and it's not a place that's welcoming to new voters. New voters are actually more left-leaning, if not more to the left of the Democratic Party. I think when we talk about the Democratic Party, people think that, there's just a bunch of lefties. No, the Democratic Party is a moderate party that has a growing constituency of what you consider to be leftist people or left of the party. And what I mean by this is that you have people who are pushing for UBI. You have people who are pushing for restructuring of law enforcement. People who are pushing for more bike lanes and infrastructure development, accelerationists, people who want better healthcare as a part of infrastructure development, more equitable outcomes and things like that, affirmative action. These sort of buzzwords resonate with a lot of the new growing base of the Democratic Party. That's within the party itself. I know a lot of people think that, oh, the Democratic Party is just a bunch of LGBTQ people. No, there are a lot of your zennials and millennials are basically the future of the party come 2028, because they'll have not just the ability, the zennials to vote, but they will have the new demographics to hold on to, because you'll have to pander to them. You would have to engage them. And they want things like student loan cancellation. Republicans aren't talking about that. Better healthcare outcomes. Republicans aren't talking about that. Equitable care for women. Republicans aren't talking about that. They're talking about abortion. There's a lot of things that the new generation wants that Republicans just aren't talking about, and primarily, they're becoming a party that's completely obsolete.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a great point. So the Republicans are going to have to kind of move, not so much all the way in that direction, but they're going to have to offer some really good alternatives as well. So those are some very key points. This is a changing. The dynamics here are changing a bit, and you got to grow with it. That's why this younger Trump looks to be. He definitely, just looking at him, I didn't really want to get so much into him tonight, but he definitely is he's going to be a factor. He's going to certainly be a factor in the party.
I mean, yeah, you have to acknowledge that he exists. I mean, he's on the campaign trail. He exists. He's a political reality that a lot of these other jokers don't want to talk about. That this guy is coming. It's not going anywhere. In terms of like going away in the middle of the night. No, that guy's going to be here 2026 and 2028 playing kingmaker in the new Senate races. And then, when it comes to 2028, he's going to be around. I mean, you have to accept that political reality is something that has to be contended with. And I think that Dems have their own issues that they have to deal with, but I think Republicans would be very worried about a Trump Jr., duplicating, if not being a doppelganger of his own father.
He looks to be, he may even be better, but we'll have to see how that works. Won't carry some of the baggage his father's carrying. So except maybe just just being a Trump, but as far as him, kind of expanding and broadening the base on that, that's a real factor. It's a very real factor. He's definitely going to be a factor in if not 28, certainly coming into in 32 and so forth. He's going to be a factor. He's definitely going to be a factor. No doubt about it. So they definitely are going to be pivoting, and I think we're where right now they're looking stagnant in many ways. They do have some people coming up who are going to be in that pivot point, and he's certainly going to be one of them for sure. But standing right now, as we look at things really within the party, it certainly is going to be Trump for sure. Rolling through, I believe, barring any kind of miracles that Haley's being able to put off, because she's really not that strong of a candidate, and she's not pulling she's not pulling from inside of the party. You have those elements inside of the Republican Party right now that are not Trumpists, that are not MAGA, that are really looking to take the party down, and they're still not siding with her. Yeah. So that's a huge factor. She's not pulling inside the party. So barring any miracles, I'm gonna have to bow out now and say this is it. This is it. I think we already had predicted this. We had already suspected this was going to be the case. but that's what we're going to see. That Trump will prevail in South Carolina as well, barring any miracles, as I say.
Yeah, I mean, Dominicky in the chat says Republicans need to pivot. A younger base has no attraction towards nationalism, but that's their whole entire platform is nationalism. That's the only thing they can run on because they can't run on public policy. They can't run on public policy. I mean, what public policy has Republicans have proposed? I mean, right now they're not even governing. They're
That's
not
true.
even governing in the House. So they really don't have anything to offer. They have no bright ideas. They have no moonshots. They have nothing. They are a blighted house that nobody wants to live in. And you can't attract new investments into an environment that's blighted. It just doesn't work like that. Opportunity zones go away next year. They can't run on that. It's just not. They have nothing to offer. The Zennials and the Generation Alpha coming in 2032, they have nothing to offer. They are useless. They are an obsolete party at this point. The only thing that they offer is obstruction. They have nothing to offer. They are a useless party. They didn't get behind Nikki Haley. They cut Liz Cheney's head off. They beat up Kevin McCarthy. They are a useless party. They have nothing to offer. You don't see that type of stuff going on in the Democratic Party. As much as people want to rag on the Democrats, you don't see anybody trying to cut off Hakeem Jeffries' head. You don't see anybody trying to take down Jamal Bowman within the party itself. At least not to my knowledge. They're not really beating up each other like that. Now you have some differences in some of the wings of the party. AOC is to the left of the party, but Hakeem Jeffries is more closely aligned with traditional party politics.
More center.
Yeah, he's more to the center of it, and so the party is not. The Democratic Party is not what you think it is. It's not a one size fits all. It doesn't work like that. The party has many factions in it. You have the Latino caucus, you have the Congressional Black Caucus, which is the biggest caucus within the party. You have the Progressive Caucus. You have CAR or CARE, the Muslim caucus in there. There's different factions within the party itself. And so the party can go a lot of different ways, but where it's trending right now is the left. It's not trending in the center anymore. It's trending to the left. Joe Biden is a moderate Democrat, okay? He is a moderate 20th century Democrat. What that means is he's all for big labor, he's all for unions, but he's also about big finance capital. Remember, he comes from Delaware. And so the idea that, Joe Biden, he's running around with rainbow flags and stuff. That's not who he is. It's a big mistake to say that Joe Biden is down with the LGBTQ because he's in the Democratic Party. That doesn't make any sense. Democratic Party has about 20 stories from an infrastructure perspective. If you think about a building, it has multiple stories to it. And so different different levels of the party itself house different sort of politics within it. With the Republican Party, they don't really have all that flexibility. You're either down with Trump right now or you're not. And if you're not, you're out of the party. We saw that with Liz Cheney. We saw that with Adam Kinzinger, Ben Sass. A lot of folks up there, even what's Buddy from Utah, former Massachusetts governor, Mitt Romney. He's out too. So a lot of folks are out of the party and they can't get back in because it's a blighted house. So what are they going to do?
Well, as they're going to do, they're going to try to move the party back to where it was. And the Republican Party of the past used to have, somewhat of a more moderate center, and and some level of what people would consider today somewhat of a left,
Mm-hmm.
more of a liberal left. Now, certainly Biden was someone who was very much more of a conservative Democrat, really, and was and was not for a lot of how would we say? I mean, literally, even Obama wasn't really for gay marriage and all that, and and then he cut a deal to win his next term around. They came to him and said, "We'll support you if you support gay marriage and this type of and this type if you can support that." And he he acquiesced, said okay, and move forward. So the part so when we look at people like Biden, he definitely was definitely more conservative, but he's been kind of forced to move more towards the center in so many ways, and if that's how he's going to win, keep things moving forward, that's the game he's going to play. So that's what he's been doing, and it's been working for him. Now coming around in this next election, he's going to need them and everything else to pull this off. So that's just how that's going. That's where the Democratic Party is as of right now. Some people don't like it and they don't want to go with that. Fair enough, but that's where the party is. So you do have that wing where, let's just say, the Republicans don't really have that so much, or at least they're not claiming that out front. Now, when we start to get to the issues of let's say freedom of choice, and that that's another factor that we're going to see how that's going to play out in this election. But all these are going to be kind of bigger general election kind of issues that we'll see how that plays out, and the Democrats are going to put their act together and I believe start to speak about a lot of this during the summer and coming into the fall months. That's where they're going to really start to play very heavily there. That's where you're going to see a lot of heat. But as right now, when we start looking at this Republican primary and where things are, with the conservatives, and let's say with the not even so much with the conservatives, but let's say with the evangelicals and so forth, they're going to stand really strong behind Trump at this stage. Inside of where the staunch conservatives are in the party, that's going to be a real key issue. We're going to see how that's going to shape out. But I suspect some of them are going to have to come out for Trump as well, or some may stay home just because the staunch conservatives don't look at Trump as that. So there's a fight inside the party still, and it's going to be interesting to see how a lot of this shapes up. But it seems though anyone who's going against Trump right now inside of the party is kind of taking some hits. So, Mike, do you see anybody standing up and challenging this inside? I guess obviously Nikki is not going to be able to pull this off. Do you see anything else moving on internally there? I personally do not, but
No, I think that they're waiting for the indictments to materialize in reality. I think that that's what they're waiting on. That's their way of not getting involved while still being involved.
Well, we've heard this, and I was just looking here at some of the numbers, and looking at what people are saying. So it says right now a lot. You've got a majority of people who are supporting Trump, but they're looking at, say, 43 or 44% of the people that are voting for Trump right now say they will not support him if he becomes a convicted felon. So if that is the case, if he does get convicted, doesn't mean he'll be going to jail. But if he gets convicted, will these same people who are supporting him right now, will they still come out to vote for him? And when I'm not talking about staunch MAGA, we're just talking about people who are calling themselves in the Republican ranks. Will they support him? And it looks like he has some folks who are looking at that negatively, saying that they will not support him if he is a felon. So they don't want to elect a felon. So, and we're looking at that at right now at about a 43% percentage out of the 100% that voted for him. 43% will say that they will not vote for him. 43 to 44% said they will not vote for him if he is a convicted felon. So seems like
Well,
that is
because
going to play a role in that as well. Anyway,
yeah, because it's a blemish on their record, right? They don't want to be
right.
associated with that because they see themselves as being prestigious conservatives, traditional conservative, trad whatever you want to call them. They see that their position within not just the party but the greater society as being something that's clean and respectable, and that's not something that can be upheld if you're supporting criminals, because then you can't say that Black Lives Matter and anti-fascists and Antifa and all this other stuff. Oh, you should lock all these people up. Well, yeah, your buddy is pretty dirty too. He got some dirt on his nails too, if not a whole lot more than the rest of them. And so it's hard for them to come out and actually, deal with this guy at that level. And so I see your point, but to your other question, I don't see anybody standing up to Trump until he goes down after this year or come 2028. I think that they're waiting for this guy to just bow out gracefully, have no more options, and run him out of his all of his options for right now. But Faber in the chat asked a question. He said, "I hear you, Mike. They are useless, but why are so many folks clamoring to get them back into leadership?" You have a lot of folks, man, who want to see the world burn. If not, they want to see the Democratic Party crumble. But they have to understand the Democratic Party is an extremely strong and resilient party. I'm not saying that because vote blue no matter who. No, I'm saying look at the numbers. All your key battleground states, with the exception of Florida right now, Democrats are doing pretty well. Okay, you got 2 senators out of Georgia, and Stacey Abrams delivered Joe Biden a victory in 2020. Look at Michigan right now. Very strong governor's mansion. Labor laws that unionization and stuff like that that's going on up there. All of the traditional party politics is being carried out within these key battleground states. Now you can laugh at Fetterman. I think he's a bit of a circus himself, but they elected this guy. He's a big union guy himself. I mean, I mean, they're doing fairly well. And when you think about key battleground states, they are doing fairly well.
Yeah, the battleground states are actually looking pretty strong right now. But we'll see. And they as much as people are saying, hey, this, that, and the third, and they're doing whatever. When we just look at politics overall, I just look at the political history. When the economy seems to be doing well, employment seems to be doing well, we haven't had a president lose. We just haven't seen it. Incumbents tend to lose when they are huge economic
burdens,
problems, incidents that go on, or giant national security issues that have been fumbled. So we haven't really seen that. So historically speaking, even though the numbers as of right now, when we look at the polls, I'm really not looking at that because I know you start to really look at the polls and they become very relevant when you start coming into the fall season. Especially around August, September, October, and then you're coming into the stretch. That's where the numbers really count. But as right now, the numbers are pretty early and no one's really gotten out there, and the Democrats haven't really gotten out there. When they start pounding on Trump and start bringing a lot of things up, things are going to get a lot hotter and a lot heavier. So so we'll start to see how things shape up then. But historically speaking, good economy, good employment numbers, good how would I say growth, a strong GDP, good GDP looking out. They don't lose, and that's just the history. Will history be different here? It's possible, but That I'm just going with the history. With the history is with the overall history is not one has lost yet underneath those conditions.
Let me pitch this to you, Nagone.
Sure.
I think if Nikki Haley was in the Democratic Party, she would actually do fairly well.
Yeah, she would. Well, in the independents that is showing you, she would.
Yeah.
The numbers are showing you that she would. She's doing very poorly amongst her party. That's what's hurting her. She's at about 28, 29% in her party. That's what's got her.
Yeah.
As far as where she is with respect to independents and others, the third party people, she's doing quite a bit better. She's actually doing better than Trump, but in her party, she's not doing well at all. She's not doing well.
No, because I think she's in the wrong party. That's what I'm saying. I don't think she is in the right party. I think that she's trying to put her ideas would pull the party further to the center than what it is right now. Because right now it's trending to the far right, to fascism, and I think she's trying to pull it back to the center, but that's not where the party wants to be because it can't survive there, because there's no base. That's why I said she would do fairly well if she was a Democrat.
She would do fairly, yeah. She probably would, but that's not going to happen. And
yeah, it's not going to happen. What I'm saying is, her politic is not welcome within the party based on the numbers that you sounded off, and based on the participation. She's not really a Republican at this point. She's more of a moderate Democrat.
Well, I would say, looking at the numbers, yeah. I mean, would she say she would absolutely disagree with that, but as far as how the numbers are shaking out and what kind of support she's getting, that's exactly how she would be looking.
Yeah.
That's exactly how she would be looking. That's not even going to be. It's not. Her problem is the Republicans. It's just, wow. You just look at it. You just break it down 7 ways from Sunday. It's the Republican Party. It's the Republican voters that she is not right now getting. She's not galvanizing them as of right now. And from these two key races, Iowa here and New Hampshire, that's the picture. I don't see that picture changing in South Carolina. I don't see that picture changing in South Carolina as well.
Yeah. So looking at all this right now, I titled the stream what I titled it because a loss in New Hampshire is basically an endorsement for Trump at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really don't have any other choice but to kiss the ring. These other guys are already shining his shoes, so kissing the ring, at least it's a little bit more respectable. While Tim Scott on one knee, begging on a dirty beach, South Carolina, where he said that racism doesn't exist. The whole state's history is washed in racism and bigotry and slavery. And you got this guy on the beach proposing to a white woman saying racism doesn't exist. A really strange cat, man. I don't, I hope he finds the hope that he needs. But and then you got DeSantis, an anti-woke agenda. The Republican Party is so it's so condemned right now, so blighted that, I mean, if you look at everybody who's on stage, Carrie Lake, this is an election denier on stage. An election denier, flew already from Arizona, election denier. You got DeSantis from Florida, anti-woke guy, put a 6-week abortion ban in. And then you got Tim Scott, a guy who says that racism doesn't exist, while he he gets stopped in DC multiple times. Remember when he had that famous speech after what's this brother who got shot? Walter Scott. Well, I get stopped when I go to the Capitol too. Well, I thought you said racism doesn't exist. What are you talking about, man?
I mean, it's a ridiculous notion. I mean, that's a game that they have to play. We know racism is alive and well and flows happily around around through the veins of many Americans. I mean, it's a part of what we are. To deny it is ridiculous. To deny that is absolutely ridiculous. But that's what they're running on. They're going to try to run on that. And there are those out here that know a hell of a lot better, and they're not really buying that. And I think that's also what hurt Nikki Haley was not being honest about not only so much the racism question, the slavery question, and all that. They're not honest about some of this. So they would play better for them if they did. Not saying that this is a viciously racist place, but yet let's address some of this realistically, and then let's kind of move forward there. And they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to be truthful about that. So
No,
I think it hurts them as well.
No, crypto. Go ahead.
It's a question to ask you because you mentioned briefly about the UBI again. I was listening to another man on another podcast, and one person asked him about the same UBI, and in his conclusion, he said that it will not happen because this whole country government don't have the money. And I'm not sure where he gets that information from, but I find it, and he deals with the technology piece, like the AI and stuff. So why is people talking about UBI? I'm hearing too much things about UBI, regardless if it's true or not, and I need some clear answers because I don't talk about my own podcast. But what is really the deal? Is it really necessity? That's my question.
Well, UBI, there are already pilot programs that have been going around the country for a few years now. So it's not inconceivable that a universal basic income for folks who can't afford to survive within a capitalist structure, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that we have Social Security, which is basically a UBI for retirees.
Correct.
So the idea that we can't have a full stock UBI program, I think that's a bit of a misnomer. I think that there's already resources on the ground that have proven that all UBI pilot programs point to the fact that people buy their bare necessities, their staples, groceries. They pay their rent, put their money down on the house. They don't actually leverage UBI for materialistic purchases,
like for leisure stuff, but things that they need just to survive, like to get by to otherwise.
Right. So the idea that UBI wouldn't work and stuff like that, I mean, it's been proven wrong. That every UBI pilot program has proven that to be a very much success, including the one in Stockton, California, by the first Black mayor of Stockton, California, Michael Tubbs. One of the youngest mayors in the country at the time. He was a millennial. He was 29 years old and a mayor. This brother has done more with his life than most people in the manosphere could ever imagine at his age. Even people older than him can't even do that. So, he ran a whole entire city, and brought it back to.
Was he the youngest mayor?
At the time that he was in office, yes.
Yeah, so he was born roughly 1993, around 92, 93 at the time, if he's still
and born to a single mother.
Okay.
So and he was married too. So, but I'm making the point that he was one of the first ones to run a UBI program as a pilot, and it was very successful. The only reason he's not in office because they lied and said he stole the funds. He never had access to it, and so those funds came from a philanthropist who helped spur the whole entire program, and they had all the data and statistics to to leverage it. But now he works in the cabinet with Gavin Newsom, the governor. So he has a future as well. I think he's going to play a significant role within the party. But I want to get back to the chat.
One last thing, shortly. Okay, that's good. I'll probably put in the back chat where I found this from. For you to look at offline. Okay, you can't reveal now because it was in our stream. You get me? For you to look at, if you want to do a follow up, that's up to you. And the reason I brought it up because when I look at it, even what you're showing here with Nikki Haley and stuff, and videos floating around, they talk about the raising of the Social Security. which I knew they were going to plan to do anyway. And I'm thinking to most people that invest into it that if they're raising it, it's for more greater purpose for them to benefit than the people. If they're talking about life expectancy, because I'm not sure if it's getting if people are living longer or they starting to die more. Because if I look at numbers, it says we're living a little longer, but if they're raising it, it's questionable. So why are you raising it if knowing that most people on the average going to be around for like another 10 years after 65?
But because Republicans want to get rid of it.
Okay.
Okay, that's what they're talking about actively right now, how to get rid of Social Security. You just had Nikki Haley come out and say something crazy like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. She just talked about it. Yeah. And everybody said, what?
Yeah.
So if you get rid of it, that means people don't have to really give no allegiance to like corporations.
Because the people,
yeah,
the people who vote for Republicans are people who need Social Security to begin with. But this is the lunacy. Go ahead, Nicole.
No, that's an excellent point, because here in New York, in actually Sullivan and Dutchess County, 2 years ago, they ran a experimental UBI program. This is in New York, and this is of the more conservative counties, if you will, in the state. And they found that extra $500 that they were getting for UBI, they were using that to buy food and staples for the home. You know, maybe some small money being spent on some electric bills or whatever, the basics, but it was staples for the house that everyone liked to have. And you had Republicans and Democrats involved with this. Quiet as it's kept, they liked it. So the UBI is, or maybe some people would look at it as some kind of handout or something. You had it both cross party lines, across, across ethnicities, and however, people liked the UBI. They liked it, and it was used for basics. It wasn't, you weren't buying some new pair of shoes, or you weren't balling on it or anything else like that. You were doing your staples. You were doing your basic living with that, and it was something that people have accepted. Now we know UBIs to be successful for centuries now, but we're seeing that certainly it's the same today as it was when we started looking at bread allocations and all those kind of things back with the Romans and in feudal Europe and so forth over the last literally over the last millennia, really. But anyway, all right, go ahead, Mike.
All right, next.
I just want to read this comment from the chat. Crypto Dynasty says, explain how the economy is doing well with the inflation plus debt out of control, plus people with multiple jobs, eviction crisis, high interest rate, layoffs start to kick in, plus stock market on the verge of collapse. But let's take this, piece by piece. Let's take this piece by piece, right? He says, explain how the economy is doing well, the inflation plus debt. Well, Donald Trump added $6 trillion to the debt. No one said anything before he left the White House. Okay. No one said anything. All these people who questioned, the inflation plus debt, a lot of your inflation, came from, the previous administration. You're basically paying for what the previous administration did. Because when Donald Trump or the Trump administration came into power in 2017, they inherited a good economy from the Obama administration. They handed the economy over to the Trump administration, who basically spoiled it later. I mean, what are we talking about here? Let me take the other piece to this. People with multiple jobs. Well, people have been driving Uber and Lyft long before Biden got into office. What are we talking about here? I remember folks doing Instacart and all these other ride sharing programs and working for DirecTV and AT&T and whatnot. People were working multiple jobs back then. What are we talking about here? Now let's take the last piece. Eviction crisis, right? I mean, I don't see how you're putting that at the feet of Biden when you had an eviction crisis during the previous administration. It doesn't make any sense to sit here and talk about it now when it was going on during the previous administration. But no, everybody seems to forget that, magically forgets that. And then they talk about higher interest rates. Higher interest rates on what? What are you talking about?
You also had an inflation bill, that was passed actually, helped to bring inflation down, and we're also looking at GDP and our growth of 2.7%, almost 3% GDP growth. We're looking at the lowest in the lowest unemployment rate we've seen in over the last 20, almost 30 years. So we're looking at an extremely low unemployment rate, and we are looking at growth in the economy. We are looking at that. You can't get around that. We are looking at growth in the economy with respect to our gross domestic product. We are looking at that. We are looking at that growth. You cannot lie. You cannot deny this. Mm-hmm. So I see these fake economists coming up talking all that craziness. We look at the right wing coming at this issue with their less than accurate information, and try to bring a lot of fear and terror, talking about what the hell's going wrong. But here we have an economy that's moving robustly, and we've seen the last job numbers of the last quarter come out 216,000 over what was expected, over expectations.
Yeah.
So the stock market getting ready to crash. When we take a look at what people are saying with respect to the stock market, and we look at the analysts, I'm not talking about some of these jokers who call themselves analysts and don't know anything about the stock market. Really, I mean, I was a broker for many years and understood the market very well.
I work in finance myself currently.
Exactly, but now here we have a lot of analysts who are talking about some of the fear of downturn that can bludgeon markets and otherwise expect slow but steady growth. But we see that will that others are looking at the growth that we have, and the steady growth that we're looking at is going to lift stock prices. So if we're looking at the overall market, we're not seeing the market consistently down right now, are we? Are we seeing the market actually sitting here with huge swings and crashes of 100, 300, 400, 500,000 points? Have we seen that? We've seen some rallying going forward. So there is confidence in the market right now because of this confidence in the economy. When you're looking at these overall numbers currently right now, and we're starting to look at leading economic indicators, when we start to begin to look at that, we start to see that things are looking somewhat positive. They're not looking extremely negative. That is not good for persons who are trying to challenge the incumbent president. That tends to hurt them. That is the reality. I'm just going with the history of what's been going on, not some joker and some jumping off and speaking ridiculousness that they haven't studied or looked at. We're not talking about. You can say anything. Let's look at what the real numbers are, and let's look at what's really happening in the economy currently, and that's kind of what we're looking at.
But crypto dynasty, people have 3 jobs because of inflation. A little bit of honesty. People been working 3 jobs, before the Biden administration. That's what I'm saying. Like, you act like, oh, as soon as this guy took the office in January 2021, suddenly everybody had to go out and get more jobs. What are you talking about? You had consistent job growth quarter over quarter. So I don't get it. I don't understand that statement. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They make it seem like under the previous administration, everybody was balling out of control. Yeah. But no one explains the context that in 2017, when the Obama administration turned the reins over to the new one, they inherited all of the efforts of a good economy to the new one. So he didn't do anything. In fact, he reversed many of the policies that Obama had in place, including the Cuba policy. Remember that? Cuba was doing very well for itself. Record-breaking numbers of tourism, money was flowing. And as soon as this joker came into the White House, he tore everything apart. Anything that had Obama's signature on it, he reversed it. So how can anybody say, oh, the economy was doing so much better under the previous administration when, in fact, there's no document or fact check that corroborates that statement at all?
Right now, the unemployment rate is at 3.5, 3.6%, depending on how you look at it. This guy's saying, look at all the people who stopped looking for a job. How many people have stopped looking for jobs? Where is this huge, massive unemployment group sitting around? Where does that exist? Where does it exist? See, this is a lot of the crap that these guys hear, and they listen to that. But when you look at the unemployment rates and so forth, you're also looking at what the pay stubs and so forth that go into looking at who's working and who isn't. Yeah. Given a percentage of the population. So a lot of people try to talk a lot of double talk to try to make things look a certain way, but you can't really F with the numbers that heavily. You really can't. So I don't waste time listening to a lot of the silliness. But guys like this will sit here and say that kind of stuff and not be able to back it up at all. Well, but anyway, that's who we are. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, what I have on screen is from Bloomberg. This is from last year. Bidenomics boosts U.S. economy, fanning soft landing hopes, inflation fears. Spending on clean energy, CHIPS program is now kicking in. Government efforts are crowding in private investment. Okay? This is good policy, good governance. Remember, there were people in this space talking about how bad governance was. Bloomberg doesn't agree with you. Okay? This was from Q3. And then Nagone read the numbers off. 212,000 or 215,000 more jobs than expected, right?
Yes, that's exactly correct.
So how can they say economy's not doing good, but you have job growth quarter over quarter? How can you say that?
I mean, it's just guys. It's just people that's running their mouths and folks. Well, this is what I heard, and I'm an economist. I'm an economist. They've never been to school, never been educated. Sit here and say they've done this. It's just ridiculous. I don't have time to listen.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I get what you're saying, but that part has to be corrected primarily because there's so much nuance to what is being said. Like, oh, we have to deal with inflation. Well, nobody talks about all the money that Trump threw out there, and during his administration. Okay.
Yeah.
He spent $3 trillion plus on failing businesses, right? Remember that time when Black people were out there trying to get PPP loans and for their legitimate businesses, and it didn't really work out for them. So a lot of those Black businesses went out of business. All these people who were talking about, oh, Black people came up under Trump. Data doesn't show that. Data doesn't show that. Okay. So he says, so you prefer brain dead as Joker. But here's the thing. Is Biden brain dead, or is he the mastermind behind all the inflation and whatnot? Which one is it?
The crime syndicate.
Yeah. Yeah. The 94 crime bill, crime syndicate, taking down everybody. He's coming to take all your guns. Remember that? Remember that was going around in Manosphere? Oh, hide your wife, hide your kids, coming to take your guns. Biden's coming to take your guns and all that, right? Remember all that? No one has had you've had 55% growth in firearm ownership in this country for Black people since Biden has come into office. What are we talking about here? The NAGA, the North African American Gun Association, not to be confused with MAGA, has had exponential growth in registration of African Americans signing up to their gun club, to their gun association. So how can you say, you know, on one hand, this guy's brain dead, on the other hand, he's coming to take your guns? You know, what are we talking about here, Lou? What's going on?
Hey, Lou, what it do?
Man, what's up, Mike? What's up, Madone, man? You know I'm a man, boy. Oh man, what ain't bro? That you can't show them facts and numbers and statistics. It's so the MAGA cult don't care about any of that, bro. Like you said, that whole we were getting money under Trump, bro. All that's been debunked. You know what I'm saying? Like under Trump, if I'm not mistaken, I think the unemployment dropped like 1% after riding all Obama's policies, and then post 2021 unemployment shot up, and now you got Joe Biden got to fix all his mistakes, and got to and it's like they keep saying he's not doing that. I'll give the perfect example about the gas prices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so at first they got this thing where they say, okay, all oil prices is based on futures, right? I've heard that before, right? Okay, so then they'll say that Keystone Pipeline. If you look at the EPA, all this like the EPA's average average gas prices, like national average, none of that stuff coincides with that. The Keystone Pipeline, nothing happened. I mean, the gas was still low. I mean, what happened was a war rushing Ukraine. How many barrels of oil they was it like 8 million or something like that? Some crazy number that we lost to the global market because Russia has sanctions on them now. That's why the gas went up. They got nothing to do with Joe Biden being in office or nothing like that. And if anything, why does Chevron and all these other gas companies got record profits right now? Bro, get mad at them. Get mad at them at you getting price gouged. And when they try to pass a bill to stop the price gouging, Republicans voted no. And Mike, this is my biggest issue with this space, with all this stuff. They have all the smoke for Joe Biden and the Democrats, but they won't lift a finger. They will never, ever challenge Republicans on anything. And they the ones doing everything somebody try to fix. Republicans voting no. Because they don't care about you.
They're a party of obstruction. That's what I was saying in about 20 minutes ago. Republican Party has nothing to offer. All they do is obstruct. They are a blighted house from a party perspective. They really don't have anything to offer. And speaking of the South and conservatism, you see Alabama is going to use nitrogen, to as a part of the death penalty. They're going to put this mask over your face and make you inhale your own poison. It's one of the only states in the country that's doing this. And 65% of those on death row are actually Black men. It's really strange for folks to come in here and talk about, they're so concerned about the 94 crime bill, but nothing to say about what's going on in Alabama, where 65% or 2/3 of your death row, people on death row are actually Black men. Nothing to say about that, though.
It's just cowardly. That's what it is. They won't challenge white men. They won't challenge the status quo. They will never challenge corporations. They get mad at McDonald's workers in California want 20. I'm just not talking about nobody here. I'm just talking about like other spaces or whatever. Like they mad California fast food workers demanding $21 an hour. What? No, the folks said if you're gonna operate in our state, you're gonna have to pay the people what they want. It's called unionization. That's the power of the people. But yeah, I mean the Sherman Act. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, the Sherman Act of 1898.
Exactly. And I wanted to run. I'm just gonna send you something, Mike. We'll talk about it later. Something about how they basically defang the unions. I was gonna email you something about that, but we'll talk about it later. I'll go ahead and pass the mic.
No, you're right on the money. A lot of folks don't realize that in this space, a lot of their aspirations will have largely been met by the Biden administration. I'm not saying you should vote for them. I'm saying a lot of these like 17-point agendas and all these other documents that people are trying to put together now. Well, a lot of that stuff has already been addressed by the Congressional Black Caucus and the Democratic Party. So I'm not sure why people are like, oh, the Black Brain Trust, vote blue no matter who. Burt hurt, they're all butt hurt over there. But how can you say that we're butt hurt when the reality is the things that Black people need are actually being met? You're looking at it on screen right here. It says Bidenomics boosted U.S. economy, fanning soft landing hopes, inflation fears. Well, in the chat room, you just had somebody talk about inflation. So you can't make heads or tails of where some of these folks are coming from. A person named Crypto Dynasty is well invested into crypto, but does not see the hypocrisy of talking about crypto while talking about inflation.
Well, he's just bought into the to that narrative, and he's not thought critically through this, and that's just how a lot of people are, and then you have other guys saying that they predicted all this stuff a long time ago, and they're doing this behind walls and all that absolute idiocy that I hear, but at the end of the day, what we're looking at is not so much easy to predict or whatever. We're looking at solid numbers that tell us exactly where we are currently. And folks want to fight it, go right ahead. But these are the numbers. These are the numbers. We don't have any real economists that I see. There are no economists here, and I don't see any really in the manosphere who I would look or respect as an economist whatsoever. But when we look at the real economists that are out here, this is what we're looking at. This is truly what we're looking at, and that's where we have to go. And I consider myself far better trained than 99.99% of these guys out here who are saying this stuff.
Let me read this really quickly. This is from the Bay State Banner, but it's a local newspaper here. City grant boosts Black businesses. Let's man this out. 24 small business owners, including some in Boston's Black community who were most affected by the pandemic, will receive a financial boost from the city, Mayor Michelle Wu's office announced this week. They are the first recipients of the city's grant program called Supporting Pandemic Affected Community Enterprises, SPACE. Each will receive $40,000 to $200,000, depending on their needs, over a 3-year period to help cover anything from rental costs to upfront capital costs to much needed infrastructure, the city said. Altogether, the grant awards amount to $2.8 million. Quote, the grant program addresses commercial vacancies by connecting entrepreneurs with crucial support and the chance to grow, said Wu in a press release. The space grant program is critical to bolstering our local economy and will help local, small, diverse businesses open new locations across our neighborhoods. The city's announcement coming a day before the NAACP convention kicks off in the Seaport targets small local businesses that provide childcare, fitness, art, food production, laundry, repair, maintenance, restaurant, and retail services. All recipients must have fewer than 25 employees and operate within the city. A press conference was slated for Wednesday with Wu. Sigon Adawu, the city's chief of economic opportunity and inclusion, Michael Nichols, president of Downtown Boston BID and grantee partners. More than 350 businesses applied to the grants, with about 60% of applicants identifying as women, 50% as Black. Some of the recipients already have businesses open, and others will finally be able to open their businesses, their own stores. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I, all this talk about what Dems ain't doing and, Black folks ain't, vote blue no matter who, the Dems ain't doing nothing for Black folks, and Black folks, Black folks have been voting Democrat for 60 years. They ain't getting nothing out of it. Remember all that talk in this space?
Yeah, I know. Just total babble. You got the CHIP Act, the PACT Act for our veterans out here. I thought they said the veteran, I think the VA approval rate is at like 90% right now. I mean, what are these folks talking about, man? Like infrastructure bill. They got landmark bills going on. You can't point me to any piece of legislation Trump put out that helped black people? If anything, I remember that was you that put that up about them. Then Trump cut like vocational schools,
He cut
like
Pell
trade.
Grants, Pell Grants that black men are largely dependent upon for going to post-secondary education, community colleges and things of that nature, vocational schooling, technical schooling and stuff like that. And so he went and cut it. But you have folks in this space, oh, you know, things his society worked so much better under Trump. That's what's said in the space without actually having to provide any sort of source of material to no cited sources. You can just say whatever you want, and you know, you don't have to cite a source.
And here's my thing too. Like, if it's about the tax cuts, technically them tax cuts are still in effect. So I mean, wouldn't you still be getting money if it's under the out? I know they're gonna say food's up and exactly, yeah, you getting price gouged. Exactly. Corporations are getting record profits and you struggling. There's something should be done about that. You're right. But who's stopping it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then, okay. Then the conversation changed. Then it turned to trolling and vote blue no matter, just turned to just some nonsense after you actually identify the problem.
Here's one more piece here, Blue. This is from Southern Poverty Law Center. For cruelty's sake, state of Alabama diverts $400 million in COVID funds to build prisons, leaving many in dire straits. This is what happens when you have conservatives in leadership positions. You come to Boston and you get business programs that look out for black people's interests, but it's vote blue no matter who, right? You get this going on, $400 million in COVID funds, and they use it and they diverted it and divested from black businesses to build prisons in Alabama. And nobody wants to talk about that.
Mike, they got a book out. I think it's called Poverty by America, and they broke down how like that TANF, TANF, and SNAP funds, how all those funds get misappropriated by. Well, Hawaii was on there too. I ain't gonna lie, Hawaii was on there. I think they stacked up like $700 million of it, but Mississippi was the most egregious. Like they were buying F-150 truck. I mean, we know the Brett Favre situation. Tennessee. I think that COVID money, they were supposed to use that to build playgrounds, and they used it to build a football stadium.
Yeah.
And it wasn't around black people. So just let y'all know. So
yeah.
And then look, and then that bill with the fraternity fraud thing, something that black men in space talk about, right? Am I right, Mike? Remember the fraternity fraud thing you looked up? I went and looked at the bill. The bill died. I mean, what's up? I mean, why the Republican state legislator didn't push it through? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like Marco Rubio said, black men, period, gonna have to pay child support at inception. That's a Republican.
Yeah.
So where's all this love coming from to be a Republican? A black man talking about they have nothing for you. Everything that space talks about is the antithesis of the Republican Party.
Yeah. Can't get these folks to admit to it though. They'll pretend like, the Black Brain Trust, vote blue no matter who. Well, I'd rather vote for somebody who's going to look out for my interests when we're talking about business. You have a mayor who dedicated a whole entire program to looking out for black businesses. You got a whole entire state that spends almost $500 million on COVID relief funds to go spend it on a goddamn prison system. I mean, this is what you get, and that's why when you look around, you say, "Oh, no one's looking out for black people's interests." No, you need to be a little bit more specific about what you're saying, because without the context, it'll make it seem, oh, both parties are the same, two wings of the same bird. Nah, man, what are you talking about, man? This space is, very interesting. We do these live streams and we joke and whatnot, man, but we're really trying to educate folks, man, on what they need to know before they go to the ballot, primarily because, there's a lot of misinformation in the space. inflation, but nobody can ever tell you what inflation actually is and how it actually works. They just throw these kind of buzzwords out there, but they don't actually have any really good grounding as to how this works. And no one talks about how much money Trump spent when he was in office, but you only start focusing on economics when Democrats come into office, right?
Right. All of a sudden they
Yeah,
they
all of a
world
sudden,
class.
yeah, all of a sudden they're constitutional lawyers. Well, they can't do that to Colorado can't do that. What do you mean? Who's Colorado think they are? I thought you believed in states' rights. Yeah, but that's not democratic. Well, that's funny. When black people couldn't, there were a lot of black people, all of these folks having their votes counted twice, and all of these shenanigans going on in 2020. No one came out and said, this is non-democratic. No one ever said anything about that.
They didn't. And then when Trump just came out, he had a video. He said they're gonna basically start jailing, unhoused people, homeless people, and that's a violation of the Eighth Amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, what are these constitutions? Only amendments they know is 1, 2, 5, maybe 14, maybe now, maybe because those they should have known the 13, 14, and 15 before all this even happened. Them the three that's codified for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's our amendments. So it's just there's a lot of misinformation. MAGA, Newsmax, Fox News, they just giving them buzzwords and a bunch of hate and ignorance, and that's why they get out here and just start crashing out. And I'm like the other day, talking about they want to fight us. Remember that they was shit about they ready to fight us now.
I mean, it's total ridiculousness. I mean, and they throw a lot of information out there undigested. So these people grab, they have no idea what they're really looking at, and they just start rattling off at the mouth. And like I said, I don't get into these conversations too much with them because I know a lot of these guys have not looked at this stuff too deeply at all. But they just are really running off to add on to their talking points. So you're not really going to have a very good conversation with a lot of these guys because they're not coming at this with any real fundamental depth to what they should know, but they don't know. And quite frankly, I think that's a problem across America, regardless. And I look at all the financial channels and all that. They don't want you to understand a lot of the market. A lot of times, they don't want you to look at things more critically because the better you understand, the more questions start getting asked, and you start having bigger and bigger issues when people start to know a lot more. So.
Yeah.
So I do get some of that. I definitely do. I went through a period where I had to get licenses and so forth and really study this stuff to really get at that. And it was, difficult enough for me, and I was studying it pretty hard. So the average person is going to have it's going to present some level of difficulty the way they break it down. But you can make this relatively simplistic as well, for the masses to understand.
Yep.
But anyway, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is from the
go ahead.
Yeah, this is from the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, right? How much did President Trump add to the debt? In recent GOP primary presidential debate, former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley claimed that President Trump added $8 trillion to the national debt, while Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said that President Trump added $7.8 trillion to the debt. These statements are true depending on how you measure additions to the debt. We estimate the 10-year cost of legislation and executive actions President Trump signed into law was about $8.4 trillion with interest. Okay? So all this attitude about, what about inflation and what about the national debt? Nobody talks about what Trump added to the debt. No one's talking about the inflation that this guy caused.
And Mike, they don't even mention that tax cut that he gave the ultra rich. That was $1 trillion. Yeah. So you budget $1 trillion. Do people understand that?
Yeah. That was their signature.
That was their signature legislation.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Am I right to go on $1 trillion a year, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
$1 trillion a year. So
there you go.
That's what,
$1 trillion.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know, if we talking about making cuts to social programs, and it's like, all right, man, you got these mega corporations buying up all these houses, these single family houses. You got Jeff Bezos on his ninth mansion. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so you go just cut programs, SNAP, food stamps, and stuff like that. But
Social
you're not
Security.
Right, Social Security. Yeah, you even fix your mouth to say Social Security should be cut, but you're not gonna look at the big bucks. You're not even gonna look at that. That's silly to me.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
those tax cuts for us expires.
Yeah.
Corporations, it's permanent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We got to talk about the facts. These are the facts. Even Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis called this out. So it's not it's a Democrat attack on Trump. No, the Republicans called out Trump on this. So what are we talking about here? I just find these things to be interesting that, a lot of people in this space, the Black manosphere, don't want to have that conversation. They'll just pretend like, oh, vote blue no matter who, Jim Crow Joe. Meanwhile, the real Jim Crow going on in Alabama, and these guys got nothing to say about it. Real Jim Crow going on in Jackson, Mississippi, nothing to say about it. Real Jim Crow going on in Florida with the banning of Black books and Black authors, nothing to say about it. Real Jim Crow going on in South Carolina, Confederate flags and book bannings and arresting Black folks for trying to vote. No one's talking about that. Okay, this is all happening right now, but you can't get these folks to understand you support a 17-point agenda, but where are you shopping at? Who are you talking to about this? Which party do you think is going to be aligned with that? Any last thoughts from you all?
Yeah, I want to say this. I want to address the chat. The banking crisis. You can blame it on Trump for rolling back, deregulating the banks. You can blame that Silicon Valley on him. It's already been documented. He rolled back. There was that Dodd-Frank Act.
Mm-hmm.
He rolled that back. The migrant crisis, Title 42, it's a backlog now. And I find it fun. I want to bring this up to you guys. You know what? I looked at some stuff. Did y'all know that they tallied it up between Russia? It was like millions of people left Russia, millions of people left Ukraine, and like Budapest and all these other, white nations. They said there's 11 million white people have left their home nation in the last 3 years. And when you look at these,
No, go right ahead.
And when you look at the border, Mike, it's a ton of Ukrainians there. Ukrainians, Russians, Budapest, Romanian, all types of white people on the border. But you don't see that on the news. You got to go on, you got to go on social, see the places people on the ground really showing it. But on the news, they're only showing the Black and brown people. But it's a whole bunch of white people at that border waiting to get in. I find that funny. There's no calls for migrant crisis and that, or all the Europeans here in America that overstayed their visa, which is in the millions. I just find that funny. It is what it is. But man, good stream. I wish I came on a little bit earlier. But I'm gonna get up with y'all, man. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you for coming up, Lou. Nicole?
All right, Lou, what to do, man? Hey, Mike, listen, thanks, man. Great live stream. Thanks for inviting me up.
Chaos Rain?
Yes. I put it in the back chat. Do you see it? Mike, you had to snatch it before the recording's done.
All right. Thank you.
All right. But anything, this is a good stream. Thank you for the stream. Appreciate it.